Midtown at that point was very much mid-market. When I started, we were mid-market. My first strategic conversation with Stephen was, are we going to go up or are we going to go down? Because we can't stay in the middle. We're too, we've got too much invested in real estate. Our clubs are big because of the tennis facilities. And so we have to decide, we either go all in and we go low and we become a HVLP type of business with tennis. I'm not quite sure how that works, or we go high.
Hi, I'm Lauren Parsons.
And I'm Andy Jackson, and this is the All Well Co podcast.
Dive deep with us as leading experts share their unique perspectives on topics such as recovery, sleep, movement, and the latest innovations in the space.
Well, good morning, John. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good morning, Andy.
Good. Hey, thanks for coming on the All Well Co podcast.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Let's just set the scene, mate. I know you and I have obviously known each other for like a couple of weeks.
Just a couple.
Probably a good idea just to explain how we connected, how you got connected into All Well Co. That'd be a great start.
Yeah, I mean, you and I obviously go back a long time, more than a couple of weeks, and as the receding hairline can attest.
Yes, I've got that too.
When we knew each other previously, I think our hair was a lot longer. But look, we've been in contact certainly over the last sort of 12 months, just regarding some of the work that you've been doing. Some of the products you've been introducing into the market. And Midtown's always been an interested and curious observer of the industry. And we like to make sure that we get a lot of new things tested and tried and out to our people. And that doesn't matter whether it's members or associates. And you've been incredibly helpful in connecting us with some pretty good brands, some interesting people as well. Get different perspectives on what's going on. So, we've been pretty grateful.
That's awesome. No, thank you for your support. Your teams are great, actually. Michael and all the team and stuff have been very, very supportive, easy to work with. Okay, let's go back a little bit early, because your career is kind of interesting. I've totally forgotten your really early career. So Tell us a bit about your really early career in your sports and rugby. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, for sure. So I didn't actually play rugby much growing up as a kid in New Zealand, which was kind of weird, but I played a lot of soccer. Played a little bit of rugby in junior high and things like that, but didn't really play in high school very much. It was, when I finished high school, I went into education. And I paid my way through education. I paid my way through college by teaching aerobics. I actually got into aerobics as a rehabbing an injury.
What kind of aerobics? Like literally Group X aerobics?
Literally Group X aerobics. I mean, I taught at the YMCA in New Plymouth in New Zealand. I went to a couple of classes because I was rehabbing a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
And I couldn't lift weights or do anything like that. So I needed to do some movement. And I'm not a big fan of running long distances.
No,
so
I agree.
Doing group exercise looked like a fun way of getting my cardio in. So I started doing that at 16, and by 17, I was teaching classes. And then I paid my way through college.
You know how funny this is? So when I left, I was a physical education teacher first out of university. And then my first job in fitness and my first role was working for the YMCA in London.
Really? There you go. Small world. So, so I paid my way through college by teaching classes. I taught probably, I think, on average, 8 or 9 classes a week for 4 years. And I came out with an education degree as well. So I ended up with a Bachelor of Education and was teaching elementary school, probably equivalent of like 5th and 6th grade here in the US and in New Zealand. And did that for a number of years, and it eventually led into sports administration. So I started running sports programs for our state, for the state that I lived in, the region I lived in.
Yeah,
and was running the high school sports association. So I was in charge of all of the events and tournaments and competitions for all of the different sports. So I was very much into sports administration. Ended up doing that for a few years, and then got approached, because I was involved in sports management, at that point, to interview to be the CEO of Bay of Plenty Rugby, which in New Zealand, rugby is equivalent to football in Texas. It's like a religion.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And so they wanted somebody. Historically in New Zealand, you got that sort of role from all the people you knew and all the people that you had connections with through the amateur game all the way up the food chain. And that hadn't been working very well. Rugby had just gone professional. It was 1996. And so rugby had just gone pro. And they decided they wanted somebody who was not one of the old boys network. And so they started looking for CEOs, started looking for a CEO that had no axe to grind, who'd come in with a fresh slate and a fresh
That's a
set
good
of
idea.
ideas. And so they asked me if I would apply for the job. And I applied for it thinking that was nice and it would be a good experience. At no point did I think I was going to get the job. I was 31 years old at the time. I was still playing semi-pro soccer in New Zealand at the time. So I sort of felt that I was a complete left field candidate. And lo and behold, must have said something right to somebody and got the which led to me really creating from the ground up a professional rugby organization, a rugby club structure that looked after not only a professional team and all the paraphernalia that goes along with that, but also then underneath that, all of the academy teams and the development teams and the women's team and the referees association and all the club structures and the rugby development officers. So it's really not just the pro team that you were responsible for, it was the rugby in the entire area. So it gave me a really good insight into communities, into what was important to people, into how sports and activity really help to build strong communities. And I think that's sort of foundationally stayed with me ever since.
It's really hilarious when I'm listening to you here is that, so I'm a failed soccer player. I played semi-pro. I tried out for Dundee United. I got 5 first team games. I played semi-pro in London. I did a bunch of different jobs, etc., to pay myself through, went to university. My only link into rugby is kind of hilarious. So when I was playing semi-pro for Gateshead and playing in the Newcastle area. I went to Durham University. But every Wednesday, the rugby team played, and they were getting the best looking girls. I'm like, okay, I need to try this rugby. So I went to rugby, went to the first practice. I was pretty quick from football. So they said, you need to, even though you're tall, get out on the wing. You're not heavy enough to be in the second row or whatever. So I run down and this prop tackles me. I thought he'd broken every single bone in my body.
Yeah, I could already feel it.
My experience with rugby initiate was not
good.
It was sore. And I can't imagine being hit by an All Black.
Right. Yeah. So it was interesting because in those days when rugby first went professional, you and I could have passed for a professional rugby player in that first year. We really could. I could have played. I wouldn't have been, in the forwards. Like yourself, they would have pushed me out to the wing or fullback or something, or maybe halfback even.
Yeah.
But by the time I left, I was there for 6 years. We had a huge amount of success in 6 years. We built this from scratch, won the national championship for the first time, built a stadium. Like it was literally, it was all hands on deck for
That's
6
great
years.
experience.
It was incredible, an incredible experience. It was nearly the death of me a couple of times from stress and anxiety and pressure. Really did not have much of a life outside of rugby for that period of time. When I eventually left, so I met my wife and moved to the UK with her. I was ready for a break from sport. Every player was, I was half the size of most of the players in that period of time. And we were signing new players to contracts coming out of high school who were bigger than me, and I'm not that small, I'm 5'11" and, 180, 190 pounds. There was just no way you could have played professional rugby at that point, at that size. And so it was, even the smallest players on the field were 200-pound plus. And it was, the change in dynamic in professional rugby was, I got to see it from from the front row, basically, of the stand and experience it.
So you've kind of hinted that, you got a bit of burnout, you did your 6 years, etc. So talk us about how did that lead you into the fitness industry, then how it led you into Midtown Athletics? Because I think the first time we met, I think was when you were at Holmes Place.
That's right. I was at Holmes Place. So I moved back to the UK in 2003 with my wife, then fiance, now wife. My initial thought was to take a year out. So my initial thought was I wanted to stay in professional sport. I love professional sport, and it didn't matter to me whether it was rugby or football, soccer, or hockey or anything really. I wasn't really that bothered. because to me it was all about the communities, and it was all about community building and creating the environment for people to be successful. And so I figured I was pretty burnt out. I'll take a year out, and I'll look for something else. I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I got offered a job at Holmes Place as a general manager of one of their clubs. I didn't really know much about it, but it led me back full circle to that 16-year-old walking into a YMCA for the first time and going, okay, what is this all about? And obviously Holmes Place is a higher end premium product. And as a general manager, I figured I'd be there a year and then I'd be back into sport. That was in 2003, so it's over 20 years ago now, and I've still not gone back. So it's been a journey, and I was there for a couple of years, got promoted.
You were there with some of my good friends like Mario Pedrozzoli and Ian Turley and those guys there. Mario and I are still, we were really, really strong friends, and obviously he's down in Florida and stuff now.
Yep.
So yeah,
I'm still in contact with Ian Turley.
Ian,
Roger
good guy.
McLaughlin. A lot of those guys contact with. Yeah, so I was there for a couple of years, got approached by a recruitment agency to apply for a role at Espria as a chief operating officer, which Espria is very high-end luxury full-service clubs across Europe. So based in London, but across the continent. Got that position, was lucky enough to get that, and stepped into that role. Is really the face of the executive management of the organization. And so, really grateful for the opportunity that I got there and the learnings I had there, and the cultural.
The cultural thing would be interesting.
It was fascinating. Working in Belgium, working in Italy, working in Germany with a UK company who also had some US investors. So it was very much a cultural melting pot, and learning really that people are people no matter where they come from, and people want the same sort of things out of their work, and they want purpose, and they want to feel valued, and they want opportunity, and that doesn't change. And so that was a really fabulous experience for me. And then we had 3 kids, and I'm traveling. My wife's in London. I'm traveling 5 days a week through Europe.
Yeah, through Europe.
I'm leaving on a Monday morning and getting back on Friday night. And that is not conducive to
3 kids,
family, 3 kids. So I started looking for something else. I started looking and actually at the time got an opportunity to get back into rugby. Got an opportunity to get back. Had the offer of the CEO role at one of the professional premier rugby clubs in the UK, and went through that process and actually turned it down in favor of moving to Midtown. So we were contemplating this as a 5-year adventure. We had little kids, and we were like, oh, this is great. This is the time to move. Got in contact with the owners of Midtown through Philip Mills.
Oh, cool.
Who I've known back in my aerobics days.
Yeah.
And he'd put me in contact with the owners of Midtown, who were.
I think that's how I met you. I think I came to sell you Les Mills programs.
Yeah, probably. And so Philip, connected me with Stephen Schwartz, the owners, family owns Midtown. And Stephen and I hit it off right off the bat, and we have a great relationship, still do to this day. And we work very closely together. And he offered me the opportunity to move here, and I said, look, I'll do it for 5 years. Then my kids will be at an age where they're going to go to high school, my oldest, so we'll move back to the UK. So I'll commit for 5, if that's okay for you. He said, absolutely, but you've got to create a succession plan. And I'm like, no problem, happy to do that. And then we moved, and 5 years came and went, and it's now been 12 going on 13 years. So. And we have our eldest is in college here in the US, and a second one about to go.
That's awesome. Well, let's dive into Midtown. Yeah. So Midtown Athletic is much more than just fitness. So can you kind of explain your core philosophy, your offerings to members, and how has it evolved since you became the president 12 years ago?
Yeah, it's evolved a lot. We started out as a Tennis Corporation of America. So that was that's still our parent company name to this day, although it doesn't do anything. It's a name on a shelf, basically. So we started out in 1970 when our founder, so Stephen's father, to a third generation now because he founded it with his father, built the world's largest indoor tennis club in downtown Chicago.
Oh, wow.
18 indoor tennis courts. It's the largest club of its type in the world. And he was a tennis player, and he got lots of people invested in it. And they bought this old warehouse basically, and turned it into tennis courts. And with the idea that if it didn't work, they could turn it back into a warehouse again relatively easily. So it was really a low risk purchase. And they bought it in a neighborhood of Chicago that wasn't particularly nice. It was it was an industrial neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so had a bit of a reputation, but people would drive in for tennis and then leave. So people will travel for their tennis game because you're having a game on time with friends, and it's like it's a destination. So they figured that was going to be fine, and it worked out hugely, incredibly. We're still going 55 years later, and still with the club in the same location. We started out tennis, evolved into fitness in the 80s, added fitness. And then when I started in 2012, 2013, we were really at a crossroads. There was no strategic direction. There was no strategy. It just evolved organically. And the company was doing well, but it wasn't, optimized at all. And I'd come out of a private equity backed business where every
dollar counts.
Everything was scrutinized. And so, so I came in with that approach and just said, look, we've got to up the levels of accountability, up the strategic intent. What do we want to be? What do we want to do? And Stephen said something to me, I said to him, how will I know that I've been successful? And he said something to me, this most profound thing that anyone's ever said. And to this day, it's still the guiding light for me. And he said to me, I want you to make me proud of my company. I'm like, shit.
Yeah, that's that legacy piece, isn't it? Is
Yeah,
that
totally.
the real strong entrepreneurs and leaders, it's almost like you're saying is that, look, make me proud because I want to leave something that I'm going to be proud of. It's a great philosophy.
Like your hand on. And I was like, I had not expected that. I sat there and went, okay, sure. Yeah, we can do that. You'll tell me, right? You'll give me some sort of indication that this is going in the right direction. And that's been sort of the guiding light. It's been, look, this is a generational company. We don't look at short-term wins. I report to a board of directors, and we have 3 meetings a year, and we talk about the prior quarter and the prior third and the future third and things like that. But we're really looking at it in terms of, okay, where do we take this over the next 2 to 3 years? Our clubs are big. The downtown Chicago club, the flagship club, is nearly 700,000 square feet of space.
It's huge.
It's enormous, and it includes a 55-bed boutique hotel. It includes 2 restaurants, 4 bars, a rooftop terrace, an indoor pool, an outdoor pool, tennis courts, golf simulators, 7 boutique studios, fitness floors, name it, indoor and outdoor spaces. It's a behemoth. And so, we offer all of those sort of things, but we package them in a way that is, I think, unique. I think it's different than most people do. And one of the things that, from our heritage, when we started doing tennis in the 70s and doing it as a commercial operation, one of Alan Schwartz's key things he wanted to do was get more people to play tennis. And I'm really happy to say, he passed about 2 years ago at the age of 91. And, we, at that point, just before he passed, done some research on how many people we'd taught to play tennis through we have a patented tennis in no time program, which teaches people to play tennis from absolute beginners. So you can start with not even knowing what a racket or a ball
What a racket is, yeah.
And so we teach you in 6 weeks to play tennis, and you can be having a game of tennis with somebody in 6 weeks. And that started in 1974, that program. And we have taught more people to play tennis than any other tennis club anywhere in the world since
That's
then.
incredible.
So, you talk about legacy and you talk about the history of a company that is, and that came from his desire to have more people on a court. Because historically, you have one player, one coach in tennis, and they just, that's the
Yeah.
way it was taught. And Alan was like, no, 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 we need to get more people. We want more. So let's have one coach and 6 people on a court. And
Yeah.
let's rotate them and let's move them around. Let's do activity based. And then let's get them to socialize together,
Socializing community.
create communities. Yeah. And so his was like, I want them to go and then sit and have a glass of wine or have lunch or have a beer or whatever. And so he was all about that, creating communities and all about those groups. And that was unheard of at the time. And the change management required to get tennis coaches to buy into that was, I can only imagine how difficult that was. And so when we started seeing in the mid 2000s, I guess, the rise of boutique studios, Soul Cycle, Orange Theory, et cetera, we looked at that as an opportunity. And we said, look, people are now putting a value proposition, price tag on that 1 hour group exercise environment. Now it's got to be good. It's got to be good. It's got to be great. But you can now have a value. Whereas previous to that, there was no value associated with it. When I was teaching group exercise, there was no value associated with that class. It was, you bought a membership for whatever it was, and it was
you got a choice of all those classes, and it was all included.
Part of an offering, and c'est la vie. And so there was no real value attached, no perception of value attached. And so when we started seeing that, and we were in the midst of designing or starting to develop our concept around luxury, because Midtown at that point was very much mid-market. When I started, we were mid-market. My first strategic conversation with Stephen was, are we going to go up or are we going to go down? Because we can't stay in the middle. We're too, we've got too much invested in real estate. Our clubs are big because of the tennis facilities. And so we have to decide, we either go all in and we go low and we become a HVLP type of business with tennis. I'm not quite sure how that works, or we go high. And having just come from a premium brand leader in the
logically you went high.
So I was like very keen to go high, and luckily he agreed, and we decided for lots of reasons that was the right direction for us. It's very capital intensive, but we're a privately owned company. We're very well capitalized. We have good relationships with our banks, so we were in pretty good position.
Okay, so I've got that. So you got into Midtown, you created a philosophy, you were starting to move it from the middle up to high end. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of people here listening who are general managers, regional managers. They're going to want to be a president. So come on, what does a normal day involve for you as the president? What happens on a day to day? Because I want to just give people the opportunity to say, do you really want that? So listen to somebody who's a president.
It sounds great. That's a good question. Okay, so first of all, there's not really a normal day. That's the first thing to say. My day is dictated by other people and what other people need. So as the president of the company, I often say this: just leadership is all about other people. You're not in charge. You're in charge of the people who are in charge. And you're creating an environment for those people to be successful. And if they're not successful for whatever reason, that's on you. My job is to make sure that my team is successful. My job is to make sure that my people get what they need in order to do what they, do best.
So you're the head coach.
I'm the head coach. That's exactly right. I'm the head coach. I spend a lot of my day talking and listening. A lot more listening than talking, but a lot of times listening to people asking questions. I'm inherently curious. I'm a curious person. And so I like to ask questions. I like to understand things. I like to learn. I think that, as a teacher, as an ex-teacher, I think that's part of just who I am. But I like to learn. I like to ask questions. I like to challenge the status quo. I'm never comfortable when things are comfortable, I get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like,
I know that feeling.
Who's going to break? What's going on? What should I be worried about? And so when things start to go well, I start to get nervous, which is, not helpful for my blood pressure, but very helpful when you're leading teams and you can.
No, completely honest. People always are saying to me, you're at the age now, Andy, what year have you earmarked to retire? And I go, never. What am I going to do? What am I going to do all
right,
day?
exactly. Well,
there's only so many rounds of golf you can play, and etc.
I'm a terrible golfer.
you're the head coach. Let
Yep.
me just go a little bit further here with this. So let's link this into, so you're encouraging your teams to get out there, look at what's going on in the industry, etc. The industry is constantly evolving. So how do you and your team ensure that Midtown stays competitive and continues to innovate?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. I think the key for us is really one of our core values is better than yesterday. And that,
Better than yesterday.
yeah,
Okay. Oh,
how we look at
like
that
that.
is very much in the,
I might steal that.
yeah, it's good. You can have it. It's very much in the 1% improvement every day type of concept, the Kaizen, Japanese Kaizen theory. But it's really about looking for ways to improve consistently and sort of saying, and not, so we've done really well in this, but can we do, if we did it a little bit differently, could we do better? And sometimes we fall on our face, sometimes we fall flat and that doesn't work. We go back, we go, okay, let's pivot back. That didn't work, but that's okay. We don't fault people for trying and failing. We fault people for not trying. And
Yeah.
so, try and fail is okay. Like we have a saying, it's like, fail fast, fix fast, learn fast. And so, you're encouraged to test theories, test ideas, try new things, but learn from them and be prepared to move and be prepared to move and pivot in different directions. Look, I think building relationships with people inside and outside the industry is critical. And how you often do that is by offering something first of yourself. I like to think that I'm fairly well connected inside the health and fitness industry. I like to think I'm getting better at being connected in other
Other
industries
industries. Yeah.
that are, maybe like we talk a lot with the hospitality industry. I'm very involved with the hospitality sector and people within that industry, the spa industry from my time in Europe. I'm very well connected in the spa industry, but really consumer electronics. I've started to get a lot more involved in
Yeah.
the technology sector. And a lot of it is like just people like to tell you what they're doing and like to get your input. And I was in a call yesterday with some people who are pitching, not pitching to us, but pitching a startup technology platform, and wanted my input on how they would present that based on different industries and different storytelling angles and how they would, how they could sort of make that presentation flow. And that came about simply because, I'd been introduced to a couple of people in the technology sector and really had just given them some time, just sat down and said, tell me about this, help me understand, help me learn. And have you thought about it this way? Have you thought about it that way? Just where you listen to people with their ideas and you're able to give something back to them, I think people appreciate that. And then that connects you to other people. You should talk to such and such. I am going to connect you with such.
No, I mean, you've actually been one of the people who's been really kind and helped. I'm lucky enough that I'm part of a sports agency in the UK that's linked to Elton John, and all of a sudden then we got linked to this music project to help music
Yeah.
royalties, etc. And then you were kind enough to say, I'd love to help that, etc. So I totally understand this, the networking both out with your normal place, because it does opportunity. The one thing that really struck me about what you just said, which a lot of people don't understand, is give before you accept, and
Oh,
don't
yeah.
just give before you accept. Give without expecting something in return. Too many businesses, it's all about, okay, what are we going to get versus, hey, just go help someone. You never know what's going to happen. Just don't expect that you're going to get, that dollar. If there's, I literally was on a call this morning with a group, massive group, and it was all about, oh, we're putting this on pause now, so we don't have any direct commercial return on this R&D that we're doing that we can see. They've done no investigation. It's just that it's that private equity kind of
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, totally. There's a great book, I think, by Gary Vaynerchuk. It's called Jab, Jab, Right Hook. And he talks about you've got to give twice as much before, or you've got to give 2 times before you ask for something back. I think it's probably more than that.
Yeah.
More than 2 times. But
So, we've talked about how you innovate. We've talked about your teams. We've talked about your philosophy. We've talked about a little bit about the clubs. So, what sort of trends do you see shaping the future of not just fitness, but the wider sort of wellness offerings? You started hinting a bit at it with technology, but what,
yeah,
what are you seeing?
yeah. Well, we use technology to solve problems that members have. So we look at technology as a solution opportunity. So we're looking at, okay, how do we identify problems? What problems are we seeing in the from a membership perspective and from a general consumer perspective? And how can we help? and how can we be better than yesterday and pivot in terms of providing a better experience. And, look, understanding that we're not for everyone. We're at the high end of the market. We're not, we don't profess to be for everyone. But for the people that who do choose to be members with us, the important thing is they see the value from what we offer. So that value proposition, it doesn't matter whether you're $15 a month at an HVLP or $350 a month at Midtown. The value proposition has to work for you and what you get out of it, what your expectations are. We very much see the consumer looking for more holistic wellness. So I think less about looks and more about feels. It's less about, I think the trend people are trending towards, it's less about how you look physically and more about how you feel emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to use, whatever term. But I think looks or physical, how you change physically is an outcome of how you feel. Because if you feel better, you hold yourself better. You feel better. You don't stress. You don't show stress on your face as much. You're more relaxed. You're more engaging. You smile more. If you're feeling good about where you are in the world and what you're doing, and you're doing something for you, and we often talk about this in terms of new members. We're like, congratulations on doing something for you. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, you're committing to you. You're doing something. This is self-help. This is self-love. This is self-care. And I think we see a lot more of that starting to become people acknowledging that and accepting that as a starting point. And that it's less about, I want to lose weight or I want to get physically stronger or I want to have big biceps or whatever. I want to have a bikini body. It's much less about that than I think it's ever been. And I think it's more about, I feel better about me and about the fact that I'm doing something that I know is good for me. And I don't need to prove that with an outcome that is, I've lost 20 pounds or I've gained 5 pounds of muscle mass or I've, whatever. It's more about, I feel, therefore I am. That's an old Descartes philosophy. And so I think that's becoming more of a
sort of holistic
approach to health. And I think we're providing those environments for people and it's a way to appeal to more than just the 20-25% of people who are the gym bunnies.
Jump around.
This is, we got to get, we've struggled with as an industry for decades trying to get to increase.
Well, we've had all these trends. I mean, you think about us, we've gone through the step evolution. We've gone through the Richard Simmons aerobics, we've gone through all sorts of different things. And now, what did I hear that day? I was talking to somebody over at the David Lloyd Club, which is a similar club as yours. And she was saying that there are even now people who are doing group sessions in a sauna together. So
for sure.
25 people in a sauna together doing breathing and meditation kind of exercises. My view, that'll be gone in 2 years. They'll just be, it's like everyone's getting in an ice bath at the moment. I worry about where all these ice baths are going to go. That's a trend. Now, is there anything wrong with that as part of your holistic thing? No, of course not.
No,
but
don't make
as an industry now, everybody wants to build a relaxation center or to kind of do this. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to turn it into in 5 years when people are moved on?
Yeah, the interesting part of that is, I think, look, the thermal spa concept has been around globally for centuries. The German spa culture, Scandinavian spa culture, Japanese
Cold water therapy. It's Scandinavia. It's one of the first things they do with the babies.
Right.
They put them in
it's not
cold
new.
Water.
Right. It's been discovered in America, but it's been around for thousands of years. And so I think that there is more of a reawakening in terms of, this is actually good for you as part of your lifestyle. It's not the be all and the end all of your lifestyle. When I was running the clubs in Europe, we had cold plunges in all of our gym and big day spas, massive, like 4 saunas, 4 steam rooms, Kanite Becken, hammams, cold plunge, hot pools, tepidariums, float tanks, had it all. The cold plunges, and we had them and we were in Germany where people are used to using sauna culture as a real thing. They don't get used. It is not that comfortable for most people to get into a 38 to 40 degree water and sit in it. In fact, the science behind it is proving it's not that good for some people, and you should be careful of that.
Yeah.
And so
We're actually gonna get one of the world's experts on the podcast to deal with all of that, because I've seen a bunch of stuff around hypertrophy and
yeah,
different
there's all
types.
sorts.
But that's like everything, you know.
It's totally the same. And by the way, if you're an athlete, like if you're an NFL player, it's really important. Like with rugby, we used to do it with rugby all the time after training, because it's like you're like in a car crash every day. So inflammation reduction was really important. Pain management was really important. And so, when you've got athletes, then it makes total sense. But the majority of Joe population, the general Joe, I mean, we struggle to get enough people to come to the gym,
Absolutely.
let alone need to recover from the gym. So
John, let me just one of the things that excited me about getting you on the podcast here is that you're seen as one of the leaders in the industry, in this world, etc. And I want to give some of our listeners the opportunity to understand a bit more about leadership too. So for you, what's been really rewarding about leading a brand like Midtown, but really importantly, what are the challenges you've faced in steering such a well-known brand, and how do you overcome them?
look, leadership is something you learn. Like anything else, is a skill. I've heard people say they're a natural leader, or that's not true. I don't believe that. I think leadership is learned, and you learn it through hard-won experience, and you learn it through mistakes I've made a ton of mistakes over the years that I've learned from, and you wish you'd go back and change some stuff. And my leadership style has changed significantly, even in the last 6 or 7 years. I've always been a coach type leader. I've always sort of wanted to coach people and help people be better and look at it from that aspect. And I think that's my experience as a teacher, and then as a building a rugby, club and company business. And then I think it really, for me, it's grounding. I want to see people be successful. I want to help people be successful. But it's also, there's some sort of level, coaches can be particularly head coaches, there's some level of command and control. There's some level of ego with that too, because,
Yeah, of course.
if it all flows through you, it's really all about you. And so that's been a change that I've worked on over the last 6 or 7 years. Back in 2018, I think, when my 5 years was pretty much up, and we'd launched Midtown Chicago, that would redevelop the new club, and it was flying. And I mean, literally, we had a wait list of over 1,000 people, 10,000 members with a wait
Wow,
list of 1,000.
impressive.
And I was like, look, I was loving it. My family was loving it. The kids were loving it. School was great. My wife was happy. Everyone was like, are we really moving back to the UK? And I'm like, well, if we're staying, some things need to change, because at that point I had taken over complete control of Midtown. So everybody reported to me, with the exception of the owner. And he would probably have said, if you asked at the time, that he reported to me too, but that's not true. But he would probably joke about that. And say it seemed that way at times. Look, I had 18, 19 direct reports.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's unsustainable. It's totally, I would not recommend it. But from we were going well. We were progressing. The company was doing well. We were growing. I changed the culture significantly, from one of very laissez-faire to one of very tight accountability, driven sales culture. I really put in sales processes. We didn't have a sales process at all. It was very loose, very competitive, key performance indicator dashboard, things like that I brought with me from that private equity world, and really hadn't paid dividends. And we were all singing or dancing, but everything bottlenecked through me. And so we're becoming much more, much less nimble, much more rigid in how we did things, and everything had to be signed up by me, which isn't healthy and isn't good for me. It wasn't good for my health. I'd gone back to that whole stage where I was at with the rugby union, after 6 years where I was burnt out and stressed and not being, and I wasn't a good leader. I was not leading well. I was managing check boxes. I was ticking boxes, checking numbers, sitting by the computer, having one-to-ones that were.
It's great. Sorry for interrupting, but what's great about listening to this is that I could put 30 leaders that I've known as long as you in the fitness industry on this podcast now, and I think 3 would admit to what you're admitting to. I think 27 couldn't do it because of their ego. This is very refreshing. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Look, it's taken me a little while to get there too, and I, this is part of me growing and changing and learning as a leader. And I think the ability to hold your hands up and go, I haven't got it all right. I haven't got it all figured out. I make mistakes. We're human. I've got issues going on. We've got people, I've got a family. We've got parents who are getting older. There's all this stuff, life happens whether you want it to or not. And I've found, through a lot of reading, a lot of we worked with the Table Group out of San Francisco, the author Pat Lencioni, who wrote The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which I think a lot of people have read. If they haven't, they should. Or The Advantage was, I think, his latest book, has helped us really take a deep breath and step back and help me as a leader look at what is my role? What role do I want to play? What am I best at? What am I strong? What are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? And be open about it. I am terrible at focus and keeping things like I need the gutters up. I need the gutter guards up when I'm bowling. This, because otherwise I'm bowling over this lane over here because it's like, that's a shiny lane. Look at that lane. Or, oh, wait. There's this, I'm like, one of my team described me as a puppy in the backyard with 2 squirrels on each fence. Which squirrel do I go for? And I'll chase that one, and then I'll chase that one, and then I'll chase this one. So I'm backwards and forwards. So I'm a little bit like, I can be a little bit hard to manage, I guess, because I see shiny objects and I want to test them out. I want to try with my curiosity.
So, you've obviously what you're saying, you've got a really positive culture. You're positive about things. So as a result, you look at new things left, right, and center. So how do you foster that positive into a company culture, both for the employees and the members?
It's really intentional. So it has to be very, very intentional and very repetitive. One of my strengths, my weaknesses is I like to look at shiny objects. I like to play with stuff, which can be advantageous to a point, but can be distracting for everybody else. But one of my strengths is my ability to simplify complex communication, complex ideas down and distill them down to a very simple and easy to understand language. And so we decided as a company that what our purpose, we had to redefine our purpose. So back in 2018, I said to Stephen, we need to restructure and reorganize. We need to be much more, we've built this sales engine. We've built this accountability engine. We've got people now lined up and structured in the way. Now I need to become the leader, not the manager of these people, of the company. And we need to do that by changing the structure. And so we got the Table Group in to help us. We reorganized the structure. We redefined our purpose and simplified our vision, which is really actually dialed back to our past. Like why do we exist as a company? Why did they start this company in the first place? And it was to get more people playing tennis.
Yeah.
More people active, more social, more community. And so we looked at that and went, that's why we existed then, and it's why we exist today. It's about social connection, inspiring people to transform their lives. And by transform their lives, we don't mean physically, or not just, we mean mentally, emotionally, spiritually, culturally, whatever that might look like for you as a person is going to be different. And it changes over time. I might come in and my back, I want to ease the pain in my back. I'm having trouble with, but I want to walk my kids down the aisle, and so that's what's important to me. And then, as that pain eases up or I start to move better, I'm feeling better. I'm like, actually, now I want to do this. So it changes. My transformation continues to evolve. And so we were very much about, our purpose is to inspire people to transform their lives. We talk about it every day. You will never see it written on a placard or a banner or a postcard or a wallet card anywhere. it lives and breathes in the vocabulary of the people of Midtown. And if you went into Midtown and you asked anybody what our purpose is, any staff member, they would, unless they've been with us less than a day, they would know it, because it's part of our recruitment process. It's part of
Right.
how we manage people. It's part of how we talk about ourselves. It's our purpose. It's our guiding principle. And so you'll be very intentional with that, and then very intentional with your core values. So we defined we have 5 core values we define, and we hire on them, we performance manage on them, and we let people go based on them. Your bonuses are based on those as well. So it's all part of our people structure, and we talk about those. Those are not written down anywhere. We talk about them all the time. A lot of people joke in the company that my title should be CRO, Chief Repetition Officer, because I am the oracle of repeating myself over and over again on the purpose and the core values, because the culture is my responsibility. The culture of the company, if the culture of the company wavers in any way, shape, or form, it's on me. It means that I'm not on top of that. I'm not communicating it. I'm not pushing it. I'm not lifting it. I'm not raising it and elevating it in people's minds so that it becomes something
Yeah,
that,
so many people, they're constantly, I'm lucky enough, I get to coach some CEOs, I work with some CEOs, etc. And they're always looking for the new shiny thing. And I'm like, no, guys, look, this works. Repeat it. Do it over again. I said, I know it's boring. I said, I know you want to look at something exciting, but this is how you'll build your community. You'll build that structure in the
yeah,
organization.
it's the discipline. It's a discipline that I've learned. I've had to learn it, and I've had to curtail my desire to run after the shiny things and to set the
Me
whole.
too.
What you do is you set the company in one direction, and then because you're the leader and you're looking at something, everyone goes, "Oh, okay, we better look at that. Must be important." I'm like, no, 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 no. Keep going this way. I'll look at this, but I don't need anybody else to look at it. I'm just sort of, because I'm thinking 2 years down the road or 18 months down the road, because that's my job. My job is to look at what's coming, not what's happening right now. So,
Hey, John,
but
don't
I
you
get
think?
that people want to switch.
Yeah, don't you think that? I mean, I actually give some credit here to Philip Mills and Les Mills and Alberta over at Zumba. They took group exercise away from being that shiny new class everywhere and put some structure, put some
Yeah,
discipline to it. And I think both of those, there are other organizations, but they are probably the two for me. And it was especially Les Mills and Philip, etc. They helped to teach me structure, not just in the class format, but actually in how you do it from a business point of view.
right. From a business perspective. And that's the discipline. So it is incredibly disciplined. You need to be incredibly focused and incredibly intentional. And culture, we've made culture our number one thing, our central tenet of how we operate, how we do things. We sit in interviews with people, and it doesn't matter whether it's somebody we're hiring for their first job out of college or someone in an executive role who's comes with all sorts of different experiences. Our recruitment questions are the same. It's all behavioral based. It's all that, if this does not resonate with you, if our purpose and our core values, our 5 core behaviors do not resonate with you at a deep level, at a human level, this is not going to work for you. And we tell people, look, I really enjoyed the conversation. I really enjoyed the interview, but this has to fit for you and us. This is a two-way door. This has to work for both of us. If you have any doubts about whether because we will drive you crazy. If this doesn't resonate with you, if you don't believe this, if you don't believe in our purpose and why we exist, you're going to go nuts with
Yeah.
us, because we talk about it all the time. We make decisions based on it. We use data, but we use the data to back up, is this decision the right decision, the right direction we should go in? And we're almost like evangelical about this. I mean, talking about drinking the Kool-Aid, it's like you.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm picking up here is I've got community, your leadership style is more of a head coach. So let's get into you talked a lot about looking at each individual member's needs and requirements that are going to vary and change, and then having lots of different approaches that can support them. So let's just pick on one. You hear a lot about mental health nowadays. So how's Midtown integrating, mental wellness into your offerings?
Sure. So first of all, I'd say that, mental health, there's no health without mental health. First of all, I mean, and it's always been a thing, but, we know from an exercise physiology perspective that movement, you know, leads to dopamine and serotonin release in the body, which are the feel good and the connecting connectors for human beings. And so we know that, like, we try to get people to move for the right reason, not just for the physical reason, but for the reason that you're going to feel better about yourself. We work with a charity called Hope for the Day on mental health, and we've done lots of fundraising for them. We've also done some fundraising, for the last 10 in our club in Montreal with the Jewish General Hospital and their pediatric psychology department. And in the last 10 years, we've raised over $12 million for that organization. And we're very proud of that work that we do with them. We do an annual event with them. So it's always been not always, but it's been front and center for us for quite a while. We offer a lot of meditation classes, breath work.
Yeah.
We do a class called Regen, which is really about breath work and meditation and journaling and things like that. So we do a lot of those sort of things, as well as the traditional yoga type of classes.
Are you starting to blend any technology into that type of work?
So we are looking at that. Well, no, not particularly. Actually, we're running away from technology in that area, because we're seeing that people are looking for more grounding. People are looking for more natural solutions for that. We've tried a number of the apps to test them, and I was just saying, things that come out in the market, I like to test them and try them. We see if that's something we can build in, but a lot of it is comes and goes. I think you mentioned it earlier, so it's a fad. It's not a trend. I think social connection, human connection. I think we have the loneliest generation of people on the planet right now, and loneliness is a huge issue. And so I think I read that by the end of next year, 2026, I think there's going to be 55% of women between the ages of 33 and 45 will be single and childless. I mean, that's never happened in human history.
And I think that the same is true of young men.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not going to get into my own family, but they've got into this. The only way that you can go and meet somebody is by swiping left or right.
Right. And
It's
so
like that's why clubs like yours or communities like yours, where people are just going to meet each other, they're going to encourage people to join a group or play tennis or whatever, is so important.
yeah, I think so. That's where we're leading in, is our social communities, is social connections. We run a whole lot of different events and always have done. For members, we partner with a lot of different brands. We did a great event with Salomon running shoes at one point when we first opened Midtown Chicago, because they were owned by the same company that owns Wilson. We've been a partner with Wilson for 55 years, and they came into the club and wanted to launch their new running shoes. So we went through all of the Precor treadmills and found all the top 250 runners in the company, people that run the most miles, 250 of them, and invited them to an event with Salomon and to launch their new shoe. And of course, they all turned up, and then they, none of them really knew each other, but this was a running community. They just didn't know it. And so we'd be able to put them together. We still have that running community going to this day. They call themselves the OG Salomons, and they all trail running a couple of times a year together. And we do a lot of different activities to try and keep that group healthy in terms of interactions and adding people to it. And so there's all sorts of ways that you can partner with your brands and things that I think help to create that social connection and that integration. Because most people come into the club or the gym by themselves. The majority of memberships are individual memberships.
Individual memberships, they're not
Not couples and
couples or
groups and
families or
families.
groups
No.
and stuff.
So we look at it and go, it's an opportunity.
So, Jon, one of the new things we've added to this is season 3 of our podcast. One of the new things we've asked is this quickfire round. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You've got 10 to 15 seconds to answer each one. So let's see how you go with inclusivity. So how do you deal with high-end fitness people down to Joe? How does Midtown make themselves inclusive?
So we offer it. We offer a membership open to anyone. Yeah, there obviously is a price issue for a lot of people, But we don't discriminate on any grounds, and we welcome anybody to join us.
Okay, give us your number one use of technology in your wellness innovations for the future. What's your number one you're going to do?
Consistency. So delivering consistency. So how do we help members become more consistent in their behavior and habits? So we're trying to use technology to help people develop a behavior that allows them to come in more often.
So how are you leveraging, or what technology are you leveraging to enhance that member's journey?
Yeah. So we're leveraging AI. So we built our own machine learning platform. This is much more than 15 seconds. We built our
I love
own we built our own data warehouse with a machine learning system on top of it that identifies behavior patterns and patterns of behavior based on check-ins, purchases, net promoter score, et
cool.
cetera, et cetera. So we build it all in, and then it pushes all that information out, identifies members' visit frequency, and then notifies us when that frequency changes. And then we have a team that reaches out to people and goes, "Hey, you missed your visit yesterday. What's going on?"
That's cool use of technology. I like that. It's a friendly big brother. I like it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
We try not to be creepy about it, but yeah, it's like we're like, "Hey, listen, you told us when you started, Andy, you wanted to come twice a week.
Yeah.
We
So what
missed you
happened?
yesterday. What happened?
What
What could
happened?
we do? Is there a problem?" And people are like, "Oh shit, no, I didn't. I said you did say that, right?" And like, we want to
But
hold you accountable.
weirdly, because of AI, I think more people are getting used to the computer talking to them. I mean, it was a Bill Maher episode recently. He did make me laugh. He said, "Why is AI so positive? It always tells you, it's just like, well, that's a nice recipe, or that's a nice thing that you've done, etc." And he's like, "What you're doing though is I like it. Is you're flipping that and
Yeah.
actually saying, hey, where have you been? I like that." Okay, looking ahead, how do you see the role of Midtown Athletic sports and fitness clubs evolving in the wellness landscape over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's a big question. I think that there's more. I think we're going back to the future. I think the club is going to evolve to more of a social environment, more of a place where people meet each other, people do different things. I think the value in you know in that connection and having. If I think about Midtown, we've been doing that for a long time. But we're not on the scale of someone like Planet Fitness. But if I think about Planet Fitness or 24-hour Fitness Crunch, those big clubs with their lower price points, and it's still, I think, those members, those people, those consumers are still looking for similar things to those that people who are at our price point are looking for. And I think that those clubs are going to have to evolve into, how do we create communities within our clubs, with our gyms, lifting clubs, or whatever they might be. Um, there's different ways to do it. Social activities, social clubs, indoor and outdoor activities and things. I think that is going to become a demand because you see it now already with people going to all these, sunrise yoga, Pilates mat Pilates on the beach. I saw, there were like 1,000 people
Yeah,
at a
there's lots of these
Pilates
big
class.
retreats that are appearing all over the
Yeah.
world.
And so I think there's going to be a expectation that becomes
The
part of
community.
the
It's
environment.
again, isn't it?
Yep.
Throughout this whole chat that we've had, I think you've mentioned community about 50 times. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Okay, let's just kind of start to wrap up a little bit. So, I am going to blow a bit of smoke up your, so to speak. But you've obviously had a really successful career in fitness and wellness. We've known each other a long time. What's the best piece of advice that you've received along the way? Okay. And how did you then apply it?
Best piece of advice. Wow. I would say be vulnerable. I'd say build trust. And you only build trust as a leader. So there's two things as a leader, I would say. Leaders speak last is a absolute non-negotiable. If you're a leader and you speak first, you take the air out of the room. So if you're in a meeting and environment, your job is to shut up and listen. And that allows everyone else to have their opinions, and you get the benefit of everybody else's ideas and thoughts. Because ultimately, it's not a democracy. I'm not asking for votes as the leader. I'm going to make the decision. So why would I shut down all of these ideas and thoughts and by just blurting out what I think from the start, from the get-go? So leaders speak last is the first thing. But there's one exception. And the exception is when you're trying to build trust, and then you have to lead first, and you have to set the example for what is okay within the team that you're leading. And we lean very heavily into, I think Brene Brown calls it psychological safety, and that people need to feel safe in order to give of their best. And you create that as a leader by leading with, the challenges that you had as a person or as a human being, whether it be, any issues that are going on with your family or
Mm-hmm.
I talk to my team about, my team know what's going on with me and my kids, and, the challenges, the ups and downs, my parents, and, my parents are in the UK. So there's all sorts of, my dad recently passed. And so it's like, oh man, how,
Yeah.
and it's less about, oh, I'm really sorry for your loss. It's more about, Jon, don't feel guilty. Because they know that that's
No, I know
how
the feeling. My parents, I've got elderly parents in Scotland, so know the feeling totally. And you
and
do
so
feel
it's
guilty.
guilt. You feel
You
guilt
do?
when you're not there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and so they know me well enough. They're like, Jon, that they would not want you to feel that way. Don't feel that way. That is not a healthy. We understand that it's an emotion that you're going to have, but so they know me well enough to be able to help support me when I need the support, and to give me the freedom to say, hey guys, listen, this has come up. I need to drop off this meeting, or I need to go and do this. This has come up and it's important from one of
And
my
did you
kids.
just learn this, or did somebody actually say this to you?
So this came out of the work we did with Patrick Lencioni's table group. So this is in 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. There is a pyramid that he developed, that he uses. It says the base of the pyramid is vulnerability-based trust. The reason you want your team to have trust, and not just trust that you're going to do what you say you do, that's table stakes. It's like, I trust you as a human being, that we're all in this together, that we're, as a team, we can argue. The reason you want trust is so you can have conflict. That's the next layer of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And you want to have conflict so you can get the right answer. So people can push back and challenge without fear of, denigration or personal attacks or anyone saying anything afterwards, because you've built trust. So you build trust so you can have conflict. You have conflict because you've got trust. If you don't have trust, you can't have decent conflict. It'll get nasty. And then you have conflicts because you want commitment. And the commitment is, we've listened to everybody everyone said, and here's the decision. Now, you don't all have to agree with it. Like I said, there's not democracy, but we are making a commitment that this is what we're going after. This is what we're going to do. We're going to hold each other. Yeah, we're going to have that commitment together as a team. So no talking outside of this room. Everyone, we leave this room with the same message. And then you want that commitment because you want to be able to hold people accountable. But accountability is peer-to-peer accountability. Listen, we said we were going to do this. Why
Yeah.
is it not going? I feel like, and the reason you want accountability is so you get results. So ultimately, you start with vulnerability-based trust so you can get results. And we've used this system effectively since 2019.
That's great advice.
And
Yeah,
it's
that is absolutely great advice. Well, Jon, this has been really, really fascinating. And we always finish our podcast with one question, because our pillars of our podcast is all about perspective. You've given us great perspective. It's about strength. You've shown strength in your vulnerability. See, picked it up
there you
over
go.
the pyramid to do that. But kindness is absolutely the core of everything we do at All Wellco. So give someone a shout out. Somebody you want to give a shout out who you think has influenced you, who embodies these values, inspired your journey. Come on, name, person, who do you want to give a shout out to?
I'm going to shout out to Stephen Schwartz. So Stephen took a chance on me, moved me here from the UK. I mean, that was a big commitment for my family as well. But, he took a chance on me and really has given me and my family an incredible opportunity to be here and to grow and develop. And he has really entrusted me with his legacy, with his family's legacy. And I am very grateful for that trust.